Recording. All right. Hello and welcome. I'm Daphne Adler. I'm one of the counselors at Los Altos, for those who don't know me, and I am really happy to welcome everyone to our Study in Scotland session of International University Month. I am super excited for this workshop because I love Scotland. I visited a couple of years ago on a counselor tour and met actually a few of our speakers today originally at that time. And you guys are in for a treat with some really cool universities and really cool info about Scotland. So I'm going to introduce everyone and then let them take it away and share some info with you. So we have today Ashley Sevadjian from University of Glasgow. We have Amy Easton from University of Stirling, Ffion Bailey from St. Andrews University, and Paul McBean from University of Aberdeen. I've been to all four of them and they're all different and magnificent in their own ways, and I'm excited for students to hear about them. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley.
Hey everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn more about studying in Scotland. We're really excited to be here. So today we hope to leave you with a good understanding of what Scotland has to offer you, both in terms of academics and student life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. There are 16 universities located in Scotland, and throughout this, we're hoping to give you a pretty good understanding of, the general idea of what it's like to study in Scotland. We encourage you to continue using that chat box, ask any questions as we go along, and we'll leave plenty of time to chat at the end. All right, so welcome to Scotland. So on the next slide, we've got Scotland has a renowned education system and top-class universities and a reputation for producing creative thinkers. There are over 50,000 students from over 180 countries that study at Scottish institutions. So it really does attract students from all over the world, no matter which university you decide to apply to and study at. Each one has something slightly different to offer you as a student. I always like to say that Scotland is great for a student with a sense of adventure. While you're likely going to have a pretty rigorous academic experience, there's plenty of outlets for you to get involved with things outside of your studies as well. Scotland is really known for its thriving culture and art scene. There's actually over 200 festivals that take place across the country every year, and it's a great environment for students who are into music, arts, and culture. On the next slide here, we've got some examples of some of those festivals that you might, attend or get involved with. So Scotland's home to some of the UK's most famous festivals. So you have Transmit Festival, which is hosted in Glasgow, and then you've got the world famous Edinburgh Festival that takes place every summer. I've always wanted to go to that one. It looks like so much fun. It attracts thousands of visitors every year, but also across the country, there's hundreds of smaller festivals as well as music festivals. And you'll probably have heard of some artists that have come from Scotland, such as Lewis Capaldi, Calvin Harris, Twin Atlantic, and Emily Sandé. But I guess the long and short of it is that there's always something to do when you're in Scotland. It's so easy to get around. There's so much public transportation that you don't even have to plan things that far in advance. You can be really spontaneous. If there's an event happening or a festival going on and you've got the weekend free, you can just hop on a train and check it out. So our students really do, as I say, have a sense of adventure. They're ready to explore. They're ready to, take in what Scotland has to offer and really use the environment as, part of their education experience as well. I also want to take a minute to talk about sports in Scotland. Sometimes students might think like, if I'm going to study in Scotland, I might miss out on that typical American sports environment. I had friends who went to large public universities in the States, and they really enjoyed that stadium sport experience with the tailgating and everything. But I think that's a common misconception that is lacking in Scotland. Actually, Scotland has a thriving sports scene. There's so much that students can get involved with. If you want to join university sports clubs, everything from, give it a go all the way up into competitive nature. But just attending large sporting events, there's so much that you can go to. So just in recent years, the Ryder Cup has been hosted in Scotland, as of the European Championships and the Commonwealth Games, and that's just to name a few. So there's so much you can go and check out. Obviously, it's the home of golf. So whether you're into winter sports or just going to, attend sporting events and stuff like that, it does have a lot to offer our students as well. But of course, we're going to talk more about student life later in this presentation. But you're here to figure out why you should study in Scotland. So, we established that Scotland has a lot to offer students outside of the academics, but of course, education is what you're going to be there for. Scotland has a long tradition of higher education, with 4 of the 16 institutions being founded in the 15th and 16th centuries. In fact, the US higher education system is actually based off of that Scottish system. Scotland is home to some of the world's top institutions, and we have a high level of student satisfaction as well. Our degrees are recognized worldwide, and as I mentioned before, we attract students from all over the world. Many Scottish institutions are also renowned for their global links, so you'll find that many universities in Scotland have a wide network of alumni all around the world. They have global partnerships with other universities and plenty of study abroad opportunities as well. And another thing I'd like to point out is that although students, when you come to study in Scotland, you are treated as independents, you are going to be treated as adults, but we also have a rich network of support available for you, and a lot of support services that you can take advantage of so that you can feel looked after when you're a student studying in Scotland. Everything from academic advisors to careers advisors to counseling and psychological services and disability support. You're going to find that you will have that support available when you're studying in Scotland. And also, like I mentioned before, there's going to be great transportation links. You're going to find it really easy to get around. I did my undergrad in Scotland, and I didn't even need a car. It's so easy to get by with public transportation, and Scotland is kind of known for being a safe place as well. So it's very pedestrian friendly. A lot of our students choose to get around on foot, but where that lacks, you can always hop on a bus or train to get around the country, and it's really easy to do so. So the Scottish degree system is slightly different from the US system. And you might have already come across this. I know you guys have had a lot of events this month kind of learning about how that degree structure differs in the UK. But in Scotland, our degrees are mostly 4 years in length. So the main difference here is that you're not going to have any general education or core curriculum requirements. You will study your major from day one. So yes, Scotland is for the student who knows what they want, but you also have some flexibility. So normally in years 1 and 2 of your degree, you will be taking classes from outside of your degree area. You're going to get to engage with other areas that you choose that are of interest to you. There's no set requirements of you have to take a language or chemistry, etc. You really get to tailor your degree to what you want it to be. And with that, you're able to have some flexibility. So after years 1 and 2, when you've had all of this experience in areas outside of your major, you can actually switch to one of those other major areas that you have taken in levels 1 and 2. So it's pretty flexible and easy to transfer within similar degree paths. So even though you do have to pick your major when you apply, don't let that put you off, because if you find something you enjoy more, we try to help make it work and allow you to change your major where possible. Also, if you really do want to have a 3-year degree experience like what you might find in England, Northern Ireland, and Wales, many programs in Scotland have what we refer to as advanced entry. So this would be direct entry into year 2, so that you only have to complete 3 years to graduate from your degree. Only certain courses have this available and only at certain institutions, but it's something worth inquiring. And you can find out more about how to, research those subject areas and what you want to study, and how to find out which courses offer advanced entry as well. But yeah, lots of courses offer work experience as well, and there's so much to the Scottish degree structure to learn. So do feel free to ask more questions about that. And with that, I'm going to pass you over to Ffion, who's going to discuss, how to choose that subject.
Perfect. Thanks, Ashley. Yes, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about choosing the subject, and then I'll talk a little bit about the application process. So in terms of choosing your subject, all of the Scottish universities have a whole host of different degrees available and different programs that you might be interested in. So you can see here we've put a few photos, people doing medicine, television, engineering, building things. So there's a whole host of different things you might want to get involved in, whether it's academic, whether it's vocational, or something a little bit different. And I'll mention that in the next slide. So first tip or first bit of guidance for you from us is explore the different university websites, find out exactly what we offer. We do have this great flexible degree structure. So once you are on that path, you might pick something else up which you discover you enjoy more, and you might end up transferring your major. But it's really important that at the point of application, you're applying for the subject that you think you want to graduate in and that you're really interested in studying. So we also have these varying entrance requirements, which do differ based on subject. So again, have a look to see if your specific subject at your university has a different entrance requirement to a different university, and make sure that you have all the facts that you need before you apply. Now, I did mention I'd talk about some of the more interesting and maybe a little bit more unique courses that we have in Scotland. So this slide here shows you maybe 10 of the most niche courses that we have. So you might not have been thinking about courses like this. You might have been thinking about your more traditional courses, but I would definitely encourage you to have a look at these. You've got things like brewing and distilling. If your lifelong dream is to create a beer or to have a global, I don't know, bar and a huge chain of different pubs, then that might be the subject for you. And as Ashley mentioned, we are the home of golf. So if you're interested in golf and you think you want to get into golf management, the course at the bottom of this slide there might be something that you're interested in. So you can see here there are so many different things: ethical hacking, things that I'd never even thought about, but I think sound really, really interesting. So again, when you're looking at your different universities, explore these, because we always tell people to apply for a subject that they're passionate about and that they're really going to enjoy. So maybe some of these subjects here are things that you could be passionate about and enjoy. So definitely have a look at these and see what your Scottish universities have got to offer. Now, let's talk a little bit about the application process and how you might apply. So firstly, I'm going to talk a bit about applying through UCAS. A number of Scottish universities have different application routes as well, whether that's the Common App or direct application, just straight to on their university website. So I'll talk a bit about that later as well. If you are applying to a number of UK universities, you should use UCAS. You can see here some of the deadlines. So if you're applying to medicine, dentistry, or vet med, you'll be aiming for that 15th of October deadline. We've got this 15th of January deadline for equal consideration that some universities follow, but the final deadline would be the 30th of June for our international students. Now, I would suggest please follow your school deadlines and try to avoid submitting your application on the day of the application, because your referees also need to submit their information too. So please don't do that to them, and make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time. I know some universities have a rolling admissions process, so the sooner you apply, the sooner you will find out your admissions decision as well. Now, I know at St Andrews, we've got this kind of 6-week turnaround time on a complete application. So again, it's worth asking your university choices what their general timeline and turnaround time is, just so that you are aware as well. So if you are applying through UCAS, there are a few things that we look for. So you've got the personal information, your choices. You can apply to up to 5 universities and 5 courses. There's an education section. Now in that section, you might not be able to submit all the information that you need. We do ask for things like the school profile. We want to see your transcript, any testing. And so we would ask you to submit that via email so that we can attach it to your UCAS application, because you're not always able to submit that through UCAS. The employment section, if you have had a paid job, then it might be good to put that in there so that we can see. The personal statement as well, which I'll come back to in a few slides time, but that's a really important element of your application and something that really helps us to distinguish between students. And last but not least is the reference. So please be very nice to your counsellors so that they write you a glowing reference. And also that's where we'd look to see any contextual information or anything that we think or that you think we should be aware of when we're reading your application. So possibly some mitigating circumstances or something that's maybe affected your education in the past few years. So just to make sure that we've got all the information that we need. So those are the main points through UCAS. I'll come back to the personal statement as well, but I just want to talk about the Common Application. So if you decide to apply through the Common App, as I say, some Scottish universities are on the Common App. So these are the deadlines. You've got your 1st of May, but then you've also got the school deadlines. So again, I suggest that you follow those. In terms of the Common App, you can see it's very similar information, your personal information, choices, you've got your education section. There's a Common App essay. Check with your universities to see if they read that section. I know for St Andrews, we don't read the Common App essay. Sorry, we skip over that part and we just look at the university supplemental essay section. So that's something that's worth bearing in mind. And then again, the reference. So have a look at the option that best suits you. We don't have any preferences, but of course, if you are applying to more than one university in the UK, you should be using UCAS. Now, I said I'd come back to personal statements. So let's talk a little bit about this. I remember when I was first starting to draft mine quite a few years ago now, and I really struggled. I think there's so much that you want to put into this statement and you're limited in how many words you've got. If you're using UCAS, it's 4,000 characters, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, or 47 lines, so whichever one comes first. So what you really want to be putting in here is your passion for the subject. So that's the first tip, talking about why you want to study it, maybe what you've done to engage with it, both in and outside of school. We want to see that commitment, that motivation, your understanding of the subject. So if you want to go and look at some of the common themes that your universities teach as part of the course, if you want to also maybe look at some of the course content so that you've got an idea of what you might be studying and that you actually want to study that, because obviously different universities teach subjects differently. So it's worth bearing that in mind as well. We also look at things like hobbies and interests, extracurricular activities. I have to say at St Andrews, we are more focused on the academics, so we're less interested in the extracurriculars, but different universities focus on different things. So it is worth asking your kind of first choices what they're looking for in the personal statement. Now, again, top tip is to keep relating things back to the subject. And when you're writing, think, so what? Why is that important? Why should I be including this? And what does this tell the admissions readers about me and about why I want to study the subject? The clue really is in the word personal statement. It should be personal to you and your voice should come across when we read it. And then the last two things here, try not to list things. I know a lot of people will just list things that they've done, books that they've read. We just really want to see how you've engaged and what you think. I know quite a few people start with a quote at the start of their personal statement. We do suggest trying to avoid doing that because we don't really want to hear what the person who said that thing thinks. We want to hear what you think. And also try to avoid starting with, I've always wanted to study this subject from since I was 5 years old and such, because that's the most overused opening statement in UCAS. So if you can find a different way to start talking about your subject, that would be great. Last but not least, proofread. I know when you're working on this piece of work for a long time, it's easy to miss a little typo or to forget about the structure because you're trying to fit more words in and you're trying to use that character limit. But do make sure it's nicely structured, because I know from reading personal statements myself, it's quite difficult to read this block of text if there's no paragraphs. So do make sure that you include just some simple structure as well. Now, as I say, these are just our quick guidance and tips, but if you do want more information, you're welcome to get in touch with us and submit more questions as well at the end of the session. And that's my section. So I'm just going to pass on over now to Amy.
Hi there, sorry, I was struggling to get my microphone off mute. So one thing to be aware of is pretty much all your accommodation is going to, all your accommodation, apologies. All of the universities will have accommodation as an option for you. So one thing to consider is what kind of accommodation you're looking for. If you're looking for a traditional American, I'm going to have a roommate, someone I've never met before, that is not the typical accommodation experience that you would expect in Scotland. Most of our students would live in a single bedroom or a private bedroom, it might be called, and then varying options with either ensuite bathroom facilities or shared bathroom facilities in an apartment style living, which we tend to call flats. But it does vary from institution to institution. So again, check your options to see what's going to be the best fit for you. And there are some universities that will offer that kind of roommate experience, but I would say it's not typical here. It was definitely a bonus for me when I was looking to study in Scotland. I was glad not to have general eds or a roommate, but I definitely did enjoy that all of my bills were included. So you should expect your Wi-Fi, electricity, anything like that should be all inclusive in your accommodation prices. One thing though is also to consider that we might not always have meal plans. So traditionally, especially like at Stirling, we don't have any meal plans. It's what we call self-catered, which means that you would be responsible for cooking for yourself, which is not as scary as it sounds because you're definitely usually housed in central locations, either on a university's campus or in the city centre that the campus is located in. And that means that you have access to all the wonderful food that we have to offer in Scotland. And if you get really stuck, I know Domino's usually delivers till about 4 or 5 a.m. in most places. So you shouldn't go hungry no matter where you go. But what it means having our accommodation is that despite not having a roommate, which might be what you expect, we really establish strong communities within our campuses, whether it's housing that is maybe a mile or two away from the main campus, you're going to be housed with other students. And because our cities are so small in Scotland, especially when you compare them to big cities in the US, it means that like most of our towns have a very friendly and studenty feel to them. So even our largest city, Glasgow, which we'll talk about a bit more later, it's still very, very studenty, I would say, with a lot of restaurants and cafes doing specific discounts for students. But what it means as well is that because everything's so close together, it really has a safe feel. I know Ashton mentioned that earlier, but you can go on and look at all of our websites and we'll all probably quote how safe we are. And that's definitely a common theme across all of our universities. One thing though I would say is that there is a varying price depending on where you're living and what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a studio apartment right in the city centre of like Glasgow or Edinburgh, that's going to be a lot more expensive than say one of our shared flats that you can find in a smaller community, such as Stirling tends to be more affordable, or like the University of Highland and Islands if you're based in Perth. University of West of Scotland, you might be based at one of their campuses outside of Glasgow. So it can vary in what prices you're looking at. So on the topic of how much things cost, student finances. So tuition fees will vary from each university, and it can often vary depending on what course you're doing. So things like our medicine, veterinary studies, engineering courses, they tend to be a little bit more pricey than something like history or politics. And that can vary again for sciences. So anything that has a lab element tends to cost a little bit more because you're paying for all the lab equipment. Usually you have your lab coat that you get on day one, and also dissection kits, things that are fun that usually are associated with things like biology or life sciences. So a little bit more expensive there. But definitely check the universities that you're interested in because there will be scholarships available. And also check which universities have FAFSA. So if you're looking for FAFSA, any financial aid, or even the GI Bill, a lot of the Scottish universities are approved for those. So that's something to check as well. So pretty much you can expect any loans that you would get in the US, you should be able to bring over to the UK. And then each university will have different offerings, and that can be based on maybe subject, could be based on grades, it could also be just something standard that is offered to international students to apply for. So definitely worth getting in touch with the university, checking their scholarship pages to see what is actually available to you. So other things you'd be doing besides studying, student life, we really gear up to welcome students in their first week. And that's what we call Freshers Week. And Freshers Week is definitely a way to see everything that's on offer at a university. And that'll be from days where sports are advertising, what you can do. Ashley mentioned Give It a Go. You'll have an opportunity to try out a club, a new sport, maybe an old sport that you're familiar with, and see if you'd want to join that club kind of more long-term for the year. They also do that for clubs and societies, and that really varies from kind of whatever you want to do. I know in the past we've had a chocolate appreciation society, craft beer societies, live music, and then things that are maybe more aligned to your actual study. So it could be the accountancy and finance club, psychology, law. If students are looking to go to law school, after they graduate, a lot of people will get together and study for all the tests that are required for law school or med school back in the US. They'll create groups to do that together. You'll also find that there's opportunities for volunteering. Definitely have clubs that are really geared to volunteering and looking for part-time work as well, depending on your interest. I know we have like a community garden that we set up on campus, and then we've rolled out to the local communities as well. So it's kind of volunteering, but people have actually found part-time work. So there's a lot of different schemes that occur all across Scotland at all of our universities. But we'll all have dedicated career centres as well that can help you find those opportunities if you're not looking through like a club or society and looking for something maybe a bit more serious or more in line with what you're studying. I mentioned this earlier, you do get amazing student discounts, and that's not just restaurants and cafes, that's clothing stores. We've got an organization called NUS. You can sign up for one of their cards and you'll get things from online shopping to even discount rail. So we have a 16 to 25 rail card, which I think actually it's been boosted now. I think it's 16 to 30 these days. And that can give you a third off all of your travel across the UK. So if you are looking to have time spent traveling around the UK, you can definitely get really good deals. I definitely got like return tickets to London from Stirling for £25, which is today is about, I think about $31. So pretty amazing opportunities out there if you go and look for them. So what are our cities actually like? The first one we're going to talk about is Glasgow. And this is definitely the city for music and culture. I always consider this like the real city. It's a little bit more real and not so fairy tale looking in the sense that it gets compared to kind of US cities like I think Philadelphia usually gets mentioned quite a bit in that it was post-industrial. It's had a real kind of turnaround once the main things like shipbuilding have left. And that means that there's live music pretty much every single night, except for maybe now with the coronavirus. But that's something I really love about it is it's got art museums, it's got cultural museums, it's got definitely live music on every street corner. When we mentioned those festivals, they've got small festivals, large festivals, and they're all very affordable. And Glasgow's really easy to get to by train from any of our cities, really. You can get there in a couple hours. But it is our largest city, and it has multiple universities there. So you'll find the University of Glasgow itself, Glasgow Caledonian, Strathclyde, and also things like Glasgow School of Art and the Royal Conservatoire as well. So a lot going on, and that's why I say it's a big city, but it really does have a student-friendly environment to it that you can really see and feel when you're there. So the next city we've got is Aberdeen. Now, Paul will be able to talk about this later on when it's his turn, but this is known as our Silver City. It is really built from the local environment, and you can see in that picture, it's silver because of the granite that a lot of the buildings are made out of. And it is one of our larger cities as well, and it is up north. So it's a little bit further away than like the Glasgow, Edinburgh hubs, but it's about 2.5 hours. Is that right, Paul? 2.5 hours by car to get to the main cities. I grew up in Southern California. 2.5 hours is like nothing. I would spend longer getting to LAX airport from where I grew up just because of traffic. So I can guarantee you that like it's really easy to get to and from. So don't let that put you off that it's not close to the Glasgow and Edinburgh. You can definitely spend an afternoon just in the cities and then getting back. I think I've definitely been in Glasgow, Edinburgh, and Aberdeen all in a day. So definitely easy to get around. But again, they've got a lot of cool things going on. They're really known for their kind of energy, so gas and oil, but also it's very big on renewables these days as well in Scotland. Wind farms off the shore, lots of stuff going on. Also, you can get to castles like within minutes, 15-minute drive, you're in a castle. Pretty much most of our cities, but Aberdeen is particularly well placed for lots of castle sites. So Perth, this is Scotland's fair city. It is a little bit north from kind of your Stirling, Glasgow, Edinburgh, up the way a little bit, definitely towards the Highlands. It's one of our smaller cities, and it's really home to our University of the Highlands and Islands. Very beautiful, as you can see, it's right on the water, very historic town. And again, it's really well linked to our other university cities. So Edinburgh, hopefully most of you have heard of Edinburgh. It is Scotland's capital, so it is smaller than Glasgow, but I would say you can see it there. This is the one I consider the fairy tale city in that it is medieval in its town. So it's got the old town with the castle, cobbled streets, and then it's got the new city, albeit very old new city, but it's kind of got everything you need there. I definitely lived here for about 2 years, and it's great. Even though it's big, it's really walkable. It's got, again, multiple universities are there. So you've got the University of Edinburgh, you've got Heriot-Watt, Edinburgh Napier, Queen Margaret University. They're all there. So again, really student friendly, lots of cafes, lots of stuff going on, museums, and different shows coming in when it's a normal year. One thing I would say about the museums, if that's something you're interested in, they're all free. So all our all our public museums, whether it's art or cultural, they're all free to the public. So that's really cool to be able to experience everything Scotland has to offer really affordably. So Dundee, the University of Dundee is kind of in between. I always think of it as like Edinburgh, between Edinburgh and kind of St. Andrews. It's kind of the closest big city to St. Andrews. Again, Fion's going to be able to tell you more about that. It's a city of discovery. So they've actually have a famous ship called the Discovery there. And it was the first purpose-built ship for science, really, going to the Antarctic. But they've really put a lot into their waterfront and into the city recently. So you'll find a really brand new impressive museum there again. So it's kind of a subplot for the Victoria Albert Museum in London, if anyone's been there and familiar with that. But they've, again, lots going on. There's kind of 2 universities based here. So the University of Dundee itself and Aberdeen University. So it is one of our smaller ones. But again, really student-y because we've got the 2 universities there. So really kind of vibrant population that you'll find in Dundee. So Inverness, this is definitely located in the Highlands. Again, one of our smaller cities, but again, really, really reachable. You can definitely get here in a couple hours on the train. And it is, it's just very cute. In my mind, I always think of it as one of our very cute cities. Because you're in the Highlands, you're just on the doorstep of so much natural beauty. You're pretty close to Aberdeen when you're up there, but also it's got everything you need. It's got the beautiful waterfront. It's got, again, more museums, more cafes. You'll find that most places will also have fairly big shopping centres if you want to make sure you can get your shopping in. And again, probably has Domino's till about 4 a.m. So you'll have everything that you need up in Inverness. So this is the last city I'll talk about, which is Stirling, where I'm based. And it's known as the beating heart of Scotland. And that's because we're right in between Glasgow and Edinburgh. We're less than an hour by train to both major cities. And we're actually probably less than an hour from Perth as well. So we're kind of the start of the Highlands, but we're definitely right in the middle of Scotland. It is quite a small city as well. We are a US-styled campus, but the city itself, again, usually gets compared to a mini Edinburgh in that it's got the castle, the cobbled streets, cannons all up on a hill, and then it's got the new city centre just below that. So kind of best of both worlds that you'll find in Stirling. But it's really, again, really friendly student town. About 20% of the overall population is actually students. So you can really feel, again, it's quite a small but vibrant community there. But with that, I will pass you on to Paul.
Thanks, Amy. So obviously I'll continue just a wee bit on some of the towns and cities. So St Andrews is referred to as Scotland's old town, where medieval meets modernity. So St Andrews is, you know, a wonderful place to visit and to be a student. It is probably one of the smaller towns that hosts an institution, not only in Scotland, but in the UK, giving it a very unique setting. Obviously, St Andrews is the home of golf. So for your family members who are big golfers, you know, they're always very keen if you're looking at St Andrews or studying, that they too will be able to, you know, bring their golf clubs and kill two birds with one stone. I know myself, my family are all big golfers, and they make regular trips over to St Andrews from across Scotland to take part in some of the golf and the tradition that comes with that. With the university being in the town, it is very much part of the community, and the community is very much shaped by the university and its learning and the history. So you will very much feel part not only of your student life, but the wider community and part of the town, and you'll really feel that this is your home for the next 4 years. So I'll go on. Oh, there we are. So I'll mention a wee bit. So obviously I work at the University of Aberdeen. I myself studied at Aberdeen many, many years ago. I was a history and politics major. Unfortunately, somebody told me yesterday that I've studied politics so long ago, it has now become history. So it is the 5th oldest university in the English-speaking world and 3rd oldest in Scotland. The building here on this slide is New King's College, which dates back to the 1700s. So something new on our campus is over 300 years old. This year sees the university celebrate our 525th birthday. Like many of you, coronavirus has put pay to our celebrations, so it's all been Zoom celebrations. We were supposed to have big campus events, though they have sadly been postponed. It is an international university with around 130 different nationalities on our campus. We have around 15,000 students, with 1 in 3 coming from outside the UK. For Aberdeen and our work with our American students, we have a nice balance. We have a growing US population, but there, you know, if you're looking to be that student that maybe comes to Scotland and experiences something different to some of your classmates, Aberdeen doesn't have too many Americans for you. You can have that nice balance. There's everybody there to celebrate things like Thanksgiving, the Super Bowl, and have somebody that knows what's happening, unlike me, who would just come for the party. But it is really a good opportunity to meet people from all around the world. As well as our international outlook, we are a very, you know, highly ranked institution. We're in the top 170 universities in the world, and one of the main factors in that is our academic research and our international collaboration. So these are factors that actually shape your teaching and learning. It's not just great to have a high ranking, it's how does that affect you and how does it benefit you? With over 500 programs available across the university, don't worry, we have around 75 core subjects and about 250 different degree structures. So like we have touched upon, in Aberdeen, you can do single majors, double majors, or even major minors. So you certainly have a little more flexibility when you come to Aberdeen than you might expect at other UK schools.
All right. Hey again, everybody. Just to remind you, my name's Ashley from the University of Glasgow. The University of Glasgow was founded in 1451. We're one of the ancient institutions in the UK, and in fact, we're the 4th oldest university in the English-speaking world. We are a large public university. I guess you could compare it to the suburbs of Glasgow. We're located in the west end of the city of Glasgow, which is a more laid back, quieter part of the city that's easily accessed from the city center by subway. So most of our students will live in the west end around our university campus. And this is where you're going to find, museums, art galleries, the foodie quarters in the west end of the city, and more independently owned restaurants, cafes, and shops rather than the larger chains. So that's kind of the setting of our university. We have around 30,000 students, and that student body is made up of over 140 nationalities, which is really cool for our students because you get to have a very global experience. You get to meet people from all over the world. It's a very diverse student body. And you get to meet people from all walks of life. In terms of academics, I would say that business management, computing sciences, engineering, and psychology are amongst some of our most popular majors. But actually, we have hundreds of degree combinations that you can study. We spoke about that flexibility of the Scottish degree structure, and joint majors are very popular, as are major minor combinations. There's so many different combinations that you can do when you choose what to study. Most of our students will stay in our student accommodation. It is guaranteed for our overseas students, and our housing options are all within a 15-minute walk of the university. We are FAFSA approved. We do accept US federal loans and the GI Bill, and we do have some merit scholarships available for students as well. One thing I'd also like to say is that when you come to study at Glasgow, we do have a lot of study abroad opportunities. We do have a dedicated international student support team, and they kind of welcome you and help you with that transition when you move to Glasgow. We do have 7 Nobel Prize winners associated with the University of Glasgow, including Adam Smith, who is known as the founder of modern economics. It's a university that has a rich academic history, but also a very beautiful campus. Our tuition starts at about $25,000 US, and as mentioned earlier, it just depends on what your major is. But I'm actually located in California, and I'm a local point of contact, so anybody can feel free to ask questions today or keep in touch afterwards.
So I've just realized I think I'm the only non-ancient university that is attending today. So I do have a little bit of a different perspective of what we have to offer, but you'll also hear some common threads. We are a modern university, which means, unfortunately, you'll see a very beautiful Wallace Monument here, but we were built in the 1960s. So after the ancient universities have been around for so long, we like to think we're the first of the new. We were the first university built in Scotland after a couple hundred years of only having the 4 ancients. So we have less traditional offerings, what we always consider it for degrees, but we do have some things that we really specialize in. So you'll find that we have things like sports business management. We are the University of Sporting Excellence, so if you like to play sport, we might be a good match for you. And also our kind of psychology research, what we're doing is specialized as well. So you'll see that we have a lot of teachers in like the psychology of faces, autism, bilingualism, lots of different things like that, which you might not find at another university. They'll have their own specialisms. The other thing to mention is that we are campus-based, and so one of the advantages of being the first of the new was that we took an entire estate and built a purpose-built university. So if you're looking for a very US-style campus and where you can walk from class to your accommodation in 5 minutes, everyone's got their Stirling hoodies on, everybody kind of knows each other, can say hi to each other, that's the experience that you'll get at Stirling. So it is a little bit different than being placed in a city. So that's something to consider when you're looking at universities in Scotland, is kind of the location. But we're all so small that pretty much everything's walkable, I would say. We do have 120 different nationalities on campus, so that's something you'll hear that's quite common. It's very international in what you're going to experience. We do have one of the smaller US populations, in that we've only got about 1% of our students actually coming from the US. But as Paul said, there's definitely enough American students that you're not going to be alone for Thanksgiving or 4th of July or the Super Bowl or when the Olympics are on and we're doing really well. Women's soccer. Usually we've got a crowd together to celebrate those things. Again, we're really flexible. One thing that is not just unique to us, but one thing to consider is we allow flexibility across faculties. So if you're interested in something like sport and history, you can combine those even though they're housed in different faculties. We're a little bit more flexible with that. Well, the other thing to mention is the environment. That's actually what I studied. I did my undergrad at Stirling. Right out of high school, moved from California to Stirling, and I did animal biology, then stayed and did a master's in environmental management. And if that's something you're interested in, we're actually really well located to do that because of our campus. We have a lake right on campus, so anything that you're doing, like techniques, doing water samples or habitat surveys, you can do all of that right on campus. I was actually able to do both of my dissertations using the local environment. So there's no getting on buses and having to go for hours to do some basic techniques. But definitely as you get further on in your career, we got to travel abroad and up to the Highlands, up to the Lowlands, over to the water. You get to get around and explore as part of your degree.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just finish off now. I'll talk a bit about St Andrews and then finish the presentation, and then we'll open up to any questions that you might have. So I'll talk a little bit about, here we go, the University of St Andrews. So that's my home institution. That's where I studied my undergrad. So I studied history, which was the perfect place to do it because there is so much history in the town. So the university is just over 600 years old. We're one of the 4 ancients. We're the 3rd oldest university in the English-speaking world. So if any of you have been to visit St Andrews, you'll see some beautiful medieval sites as well as kind of 21st century brand new buildings as well. So it's a really interesting mix of old and new. We do have this really close-knit community as well. So we don't have a campus. The university and the town have really grown up together. So all the buildings are intermixed. Like Amy said about Stirling, it's really accessible, so you can get to everywhere quite quickly. I would say you would walk maybe a maximum of 20-25 minutes to get between your classes, but often it is actually much closer than that and much less time between them. But it is this beautiful kind of coastal location, as Paul mentioned too. So you've got your 3 beaches, you've got 7 golf courses, so the home of golf as well, and lots of nature and green space to explore. But it's also a really, really busy town. So we have actually about 10,000 students now. So we're much smaller than some of the other Scottish universities, but it's a really nice size, I would say, because it's really easy to get to know people. You're definitely not a number, people know your name. You've also got these small size classes. So you can see here this 12:1 student to staff ratio, which does allow for a lot of excellent academic support. And also there's lots of support in terms of well-being. We've got international advisors who can help you when you've just moved over to Scotland with setting up bank accounts and getting your head around the different money and how to set up your phone. So just things like that you might need a bit of help with once you first arrive. But one of the great things about St Andrews is the fact that we're such an international university. So about 40% of our students are from outside the UK, about 16 to 17% are from the US. So you will still celebrate, like Amy and Paul and Ashley said, things like Thanksgiving, your Super Bowl, but you'll also celebrate things like Oktoberfest or Chinese New Year or other things that are important to our students. So it's a really interesting mix of people, which also makes for a really interesting learning environment because everyone brings their own perspectives with them and you can all debate together in these smaller size classes because we do think it's a better way to learn. Just to give you an example, in my last year, there were 4 other people in my class. We went to our professor's house for dinner. We all actually traveled to Germany together because we were studying Reformation history. I'm not going to promise that that's going to be your experience, but that was mine and that was lovely and something I will always remember. So I really, really loved that. In terms of social life, as I said, it's really busy. So we are actually first for student satisfaction. And I think that's a great point to make, that students are kind of saying that they're happy and that they're satisfied. And also you've got all sorts of different things. So you've got about 150 different societies, you've got 50 sports teams. We've also got a big student-run arts and culture festival, student-run fashion shows, balls, parties, whatever you're looking for, you can find it. And then, as everyone else has mentioned, you've got the rest of Scotland on your doorstep. If you want to go hiking, if you want to visit some lochs, if you want to go skiing or snowboarding, then there's a lot of different things for you to explore. It's a really easy country to travel around, and also, you know, to pop on the train. You can be in Edinburgh in about an hour, you can be in Dundee in 20 minutes. So it's really lovely having all these places nearby. So I'll just finish up. The last thing we want to say is just about virtual visits. So you've all attended this, which is great. If you want to engage with us some more, you're more than welcome to ask questions. And also we can all share our email addresses so that you can contact us. But we've also got these virtual visiting days, virtual tours, and things that you can find on our website as well. Now it says there what to do if events clash. Well, the great thing about these virtual visits is that they probably won't clash, but just in case they do, just get in touch with the university you're interested in, because I'm sure they'll be able to just do like an individual chat with you or give you the information that you need. The one, I guess, good thing about us being virtual now is that we're probably more accessible. So we are doing a lot more to make sure that you can reach us from home as well. And we've all got tours and kind of virtual videos on the websites for you to get an insight into our universities without actually being here. Although hopefully you can come over and visit us soon, because that is a great way to see us. Now, as you can see, these are our universities, but we will put our email addresses in the chat so that you've got all of our contact details as well. And then we just want to say thank you so much for listening and for joining us for the last, how long has it been? Almost an hour. So thank you very much. And we'll just open up if there are any questions, if there's anything anybody would like to know. So I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go.
All right. Thank you so much, Ffion. This was awesome. My heart just like flutters with joy looking at Scotland and hearing about Scotland because it's so magnificent. So all 4 of these universities are quite different, and there's really something for everyone in Scotland. So I'm hoping that a lot of you guys will be interested, and I'm so glad to see how many students were with us today. All right, so going to the chat box, thank you to those of you who introduced yourselves and wrote what you want to study. That's helpful. Scottish history, that's cool. We've got some psychology, biology, chemistry, economics, business, criminology and criminal justice, a lot of really cool interests. And then our first question was, do universities take SAT/ACT during application? That's a great question, especially this particular year. Who would like to tackle that?
I'll be happy to kind of start, and then we'll probably all give slightly different answers. But in Aberdeen this year, what we are doing is we're trying to be as flexible as possible. So, you know, at a university in Scotland, we don't get the number of applications like one of the, you know, the state schools in California do from the US. So what we can do in Aberdeen is really work with you with what you have, what you can sit and what you can't sit. So by telling us, if you've had your SAT cancelled 5 times because of COVID, well, what we can do is we can review your transcripts. We can review maybe APs and subject tests and see what you do possess. And then if there's anything that we maybe feel we need a bit more information, we can work with you and your school to kind of give you an answer and maybe say, okay, this is maybe what we need a wee bit more context around, or a wee bit more supportive. I think in terms of how we admit, or the reason and how we admit is not changing. It's we want to make sure that Aberdeen's the right fit for you. How we get to that conclusion might be slightly different. If you have tests, great. If not, get in touch and we'll work together to see what we can offer.
Great, thanks, Paul. Any other questions? Anyone? This is a great time to ask. You've got 4 university admission representatives. So right to the source, it's a really good time to ask. Anything about applications, programs, campuses, COVID stuff, travel logistics, activities. And chances are if you have a question and you're shy about asking it, maybe somebody else has the same question. Anyone? No? Okay. All right. One tip, Ffion mentioned earlier about St. Andrews and the Common App, and I think that was a really good point. You can use Common App for some of the schools. However, the essay is so different, and because all of the UK uses UCAS and it has that academic focus, Common App is totally different. So if you choose just to do Common App, you're not really giving UK schools what they're looking for in terms of an essay. So I would encourage you to do the UCAS application and make sure you're writing that essay, because especially if schools are more selective, the essay is going to be a big part of that. And especially in this funky year where, we're missing grades, we're missing test scores. So yeah, would you all echo that, or do you feel like for some places it doesn't really matter too much?
I would echo that. And I think if you are looking to apply to just one university, and UCAS is a little bit maybe too intimidating because you're not familiar with it, you can always check with us to see if we have a direct application. So if you know it's just that one institution, we might have a direct application that can be a little bit more user-friendly, but I can't guarantee that all of the Scottish universities will have that. But with Common App, I forgot what I was going to say about it. Oh no, I was going to say about UCAS. So if you have a look at UCAS, they're actually a really great source on how to write a personal statement. They have a lot of tips, a lot of insight in how to structure it, how to get started, and kind of what we're looking for. So that's a really good place to have a look. And it's also a really good place on how to search for other universities that might have the subject you're interested in. So you can go by subject or by country, and you can have a look. That's going to give you more than us here today.
Great, thank you. Any last questions? No? Okay. So today is Tuesday. We have tomorrow our Study in Ireland session, as well as Study in Asia. And then Thursday, we're wrapping up International University Month with Wales. And we have a regular college rep visit with University of Edinburgh. So one more chance to learn about Scotland. So I hope that the students will join us. And thank you so much to all our speakers today. We are so appreciative of you being here. And I guess we're going to wrap it up. So thanks all for being with us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.